Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Talgroove.
Good morning, everyone. I don't know if you could tell from my puffy face and the shit in my eyes, but it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm here. I'm ready. We're doing it. So, yay.
I thought it was an allergic reaction. Allergic to penalties.
Oh, boy. Clever.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
we've got an interesting one to recap. Before we dive into this week's episode, of course, we have to say thank you to our Substack founding members: Des Windsor McGlynn, Ali Tareen, Tito, Matt, Moritz Pullman, Joey Gawler, Kemin, MJ, Mats, Luke Villano, Raul Escobar. That's probably the quickest I've ever read that list of names. If you want to see me in difficulty reading a long list of names, get yourself signed up as a founding member. You'll get a shout out on every podcast. A reminder that you can try a week of our Substack for free. Got some great bonus content going out on there as always. The latest long read was an update on the stadium situation. So if you haven't been keeping up with all the various political quarrels and stuff that have been going on, then that's a good way to get yourself up to date. And also, we may have some exclusive transfer information on there today. Podcast will be going out on Tuesday. So yeah, be sure to check that out and let us know what you think. Let's dive in.
Okay.
Well, look, we probably deserve a bit of blame for this because in the preview last week, we said we were really looking forward to this game because there were so many different narratives involved in it. There was obviously the fact that we were looking to win our fifth league game in a row for the first time since the Scudetto season. There was the fact that Bologna had a dip in form recently and their top four charge had kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. There was the fact that Bologna, of course, are coached by Thiago Motta, who's been linked at being our next head coach. There's Xerxes leading the line, who has been linked with being our future number 9, of course. Alexis Salamarca's back from injury, who's on loan from us to them. Ferguson, Calafiore have also been linked. And then there was, to add a little extra layer to it, the fact that Juventus dropped points at home against Empoli the game before ours. And we said that we expected an entertaining spectacle because of the way that the two teams play and because of the various things that are on the line. Well, we got one. We just didn't come out in the right way. We both predicted 2-1 wins, I think, as well. And we were very close to that being correct.
Yeah, we were a couple seconds away from it, actually. So,
yeah,
this was a frustrating game from start to finish. Davide Massa, the referee, he very card happy, and he's always that way. I don't know what it is about him, but he loves a yellow card. I don't know if it was because of that anonymous referee interview that came out a couple days prior where a referee anonymously was saying that other referees ignored calls or favorite teams that they like. And I had a feeling this was going to be a week of rebuttal from that to say, we don't give the big teams favor. Look at what we do, And it was interesting. So there's a lot of cards. I think in the first half there was, I got it up here because there was too many to just remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yellow cards and a red card to Thiago Motta in the first half. We ended with 5 yellow cards ourselves, and I think we only had like 7 or 8 fouls total. We had 16 fouls. Okay, so decent amount actually, but
still
in the first half we didn't have that many. I think we only had 2 fouls more than the number of cards. I think we had 4 cards and 6 fouls total, which the number of fouls doesn't determine if you get a yellow card, right? It's the type of foul. That said, a lot of them weren't that egregious of fouls that you typically don't see yellow cards getting handed out for. So it was a bit frustrating.
The problem is when you give the first, right? And then you've got to referee the rest of the game to that standard. So the first yellow card
was the 3rd minute, I believe, to Calafiore.
Yeah. And that was when Giroud backheeled one sort of through to Pulisic, who was starting to bear down on goal, and Calafiore took him out. You give it, I mean, look, that probably was a yellow card foul, and just because it's the 3rd minute doesn't necessarily make it any less of an offence. In fact, it doesn't. However, you've then shown that card, so every foul on the break, of which there are a lot, especially for these two teams, you've then got to punish with a yellow card. Some people will say tough shit, don't make silly challenges, and I think that I would rather have the consistency than not, if you know what I mean, because at least
Yeah.
you know what we're going with. But yeah, it was a very stop-start opening to the game. There was a stop in the 16th minute as well, which we should mention. Milan had a corner, and the players quite literally just halted the game while there was a message displayed on the scoreboard, a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. And the club had announced that they were planning some sort of event. They left it kind of a surprise what it was going to be, but something to draw attention to the fight against discrimination, and fans lit up their phone torches. It was quite a good moment. Calabria was sort of pointing to the screen as if to say, yeah, this is right. And obviously Maignan got a very, very warm reception after what happened in the last game. And then from that, Bologna decided to play party spoilers a little bit. It had to be him, didn't it, who scored as
Of
well?
course, yeah, it was always going to be Xerxes, man. Look, he's been out of form lately, but he's still one of the
Yeah.
top strikers this season in the league. And it was a really shitty goal. To be honest, it had nothing to do with his talent. Let's be real; it was all over the place. I don't even remember the full sequence, but it was like it just kept crossing in front of goal and missing defenders and everyone bouncing back and forth, and then finally it got to Xerxes' foot, and he just put it in. Yeah.
There was something that really pissed me off about this, and this was that there was a warning sign not long before the goal came where Calafiore whacked a long ball across fields from sort of left side of Bologna's defence over to the right side. And it was Fabian, that guy who they signed from Inter, who got on the end of that one. And Teo, I think, thought Maignan was going to get it. Maignan kind of half-assed the sort of coming off his line to collect the ball, and Fabian actually gets to it between them, and he stabs it into quite a dangerous area. And thankfully, there was someone there to clear before a Bologna player could put it into an empty net. But then the goal came from such a similar thing: long crossfield ball to the right wing, where this time it was Xerxes who was waiting, and he and Fabian had a couple of shots blocked. Kier got a good block in, to be fair. Calafiore had a shot blocked. And then the ball sort of pinballed back from one side of the box to the other, back to Xerxes, who was, and I hate to do this because of what happened in the 16th minute and stuff, but we've got to objectively judge players' performances. You can't, as a keeper, you can't be nutmegged from a narrow angle like that. I'm sorry, but that ball should not get through. And the camera angle from behind the shot shows that it took a deflection, a very slight deflection to deviate it between his legs. I don't think you should get beat there. I'm sorry, but
I agree with that. If that was the end all be all of the play, if it was just a pass to Xerxes, he got the ball there, he took the shot, I agree. But given the amount of ping pong that it played,
yeah,
to get to where it was, Mike was going all over just to track the ball, and it's really hard to get your footing then. So I don't
yeah.
give him as much blame, but
No,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
he still
sorry.
can do better.
Yeah. I'm not saying that he has even like 50% of the blame for that goal, because the defensive organization, well, there was no defensive organization, And again, it comes back to this thing that we've talked about how as a defender, you're told to just get rid of the ball in dangerous situations. And yeah, I know we made a couple of blocks rather than having chances to boot it clear or whatever, but that was a chance and a phase of play that happened in multiple different bits, and we just couldn't get a grip on things inside our own box. The defence looked all at sea. They looked like a back four that hadn't played much together, to be honest. And we feared this might be the case against a team that has a bit more quality going forward. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Xerxes was always going to score. His celebration was interesting. It looked like he was shushing somebody over towards our dugout. I don't really know what all that was about, unless it was, something that I've totally missed in terms of the meaning of it. But yeah, he got the goal, and then we were given the opportunity to level right before the break when Lewis Ferguson was adjudged to have kicked Kier in the face when he was trying to get on the end of a cross to head towards goal. Ferguson's absolutely adamant that it wasn't a penalty and that he didn't touch him. I don't know what it was like for you guys on your feed, but on ours, the commentators were saying that VAR was really struggling because of the frame rate issue. So, like in one frame, it shows him about to potentially kick him in the face, but then the next frame is when his head's going back up. So there was no actual frame that showed the contact, but they just kind of had to go with it. because he'd
Another
given a
reason why
penalty.
Serie A needs to move into the 21st century, man. Like,
Fucking joke,
you
man.
shouldn't have frame rate issues.
Fucking 30 frames per
Yeah,
second shit on the
like,
replay.
that's crazy to me. I don't know what they're running with, but given that the feed isn't even in 1080p HD, let alone 4K, like, they're likely at 30 frames per second,
Yeah,
like you
legit.
said.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you should be at minimum 60.
Mm,
Like, if my iPhone can record at 60 frames per second, why can't VAR, the most sophisticated refereeing technology we have in the sport? That's crazy to me. I didn't know that was the issue.
mm.
From the replay that I saw, I also couldn't tell if it actually hit him. And to be honest, I was leaning towards it wasn't, but it's still a high boot. It's still, at the very least, comes like this close to his face.
Yeah.
So once you give it, it's hard to overturn that, I think. Because the high boot doesn't matter if you hit someone, right? Like,
Mm.
there's two different things. There's dangerous play, and then there's a high boot. So, you know, is a high boot a penalty call?
Tough one.
Eh,
It's more of a penalty call than some of the handballs you see, in my opinion,
yeah, that's
because
fair.
you've got to have a little bit more about. I just think you've got to be so street smart now when you're playing inside your own box and
Mhm.
swinging a. We're not having this discussion if he gets the ball. You know what I mean? If he swings his
Right.
leg at the ball and he clears it, or he even gets a touch on it, then you're saying he made a play and that's fine. But the fact that he took a big swing, sort of foot comes up to chest high and he doesn't get the ball, I'm
Well,
almost in the mind of like, it doesn't even matter if he booted him in the nose or
I
not. It was stupid.
I think the other part, and this is why Malta got sent off, what he was complaining about, and you saw him animating with the water bottle, but Kier was going down to head
Mm,
it. So it's like, was it a high boot or was it a middle boot? And then Kier moved his head towards it. Obviously, not looking for the foul, right? Like, he's just trying to hit the ball. But when something's
yeah,
going up and something's going down in the same trajectory, they're going to meet in the middle. That's just how it works. So I don't know. It's not the craziest foul. I think back to when Leao went for an overhead kick, missed the ball, and I believe hit someone or missed someone, but got really close to their face or whatever,
mm,
and gave away a penalty that way. And I know we were furious, so I want to give Bologna a little grace
yeah,
here. Ultimately, it didn't fucking matter. Giroud missed his first ever Serie A pen.
yeah.
Um,
He basically passed it back to Skorupski, which was nice of him to do. If there's
yeah,
any doubt about the penalty, just roll it back to the goalkeeper.
ball
That's
doesn't lie. Yep.
yeah, man. Not good. Look, Giroud's missed a couple of big penalties at San Siro now. His record is still my thing with barring sort of freak anomaly players like a Balotelli or who was it? Was it? I think Matt Letizia he never missed a penalty or something. There's some freak players who have ridiculous penalty records. They're usually the ones who just put their foot through it. By the way,
Mhm.
it tends to, like, law of averages, it does tend to even itself out. And Giroud's penalty record for us was ridiculously good. However,
Yeah.
he's now missed that Dortmund one, which would have been a massive moment to put us ahead in that game. And maybe we're talking about us still being in the Champions League if that goes in. Of course, performance after that wasn't particularly great. And then he misses this one, which was, you don't mind so much when the goalkeeper has a lot to do, but well, it
He's
just
missed
wasn't a good penalty.
4 penalties in his entire career. 2 of them
Two
have been
from
this season.
mm,
One, his first Serie A one was against Bologna, and then the Dortmund one in the Champions League. He missed one in the Champions League last season in the semifinal, or I'm sorry, the
yeah,
quarterfinal against Napoli.
quarterfinal.
And then the other one was in the Carabao Cup for Arsenal. I genuinely don't even know the logo of this team, but Coventry City. He missed one
Oh,
against
there you go.
Coventry City in a game they
Yeah,
won 6-1. So
yeah,
it didn't really matter there. But we have drawn or lost in every game he's missed for us. So
ominous.
there's a shitty stat for you.
Yeah, but then
It
we
doesn't
did.
get much better.
No, we did equalise though. We did equalise not long
Yes.
after that, and I must because the praise is going to be in pockets for this game. Let's be honest. But I will praise the team for the way that after that missed penalty, they didn't really let it rattle them, and they just got straight back to trying to find that equalising goal, and it did come. Pulisic fed Calabria down the right side. Nice pull back to sort of the edge of the 6-yard box. Loftus-Cheek with a smart near post run and just a first time finish that went through Skorupski pretty much. That was a nice goal, and it was an important time to score.
Yeah, I
if
mean,
we'd
it's
have gone
this.
in behind.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were
No, go
going
for
there.
it. Sorry.
It's the same goal that Loftus-Cheek scores all of his goals for us. It's always cross to the top of the box, and he's just there, right time, right place, which is good. That's what you want from, I guess, your attacking midfielder, if that's his official position for us now. But beautiful, beautiful pass from Pulisic. Love me a pre-assist, and he gets a lot of them. So, that's might fly under the radar to some people. Because besides that, he was fairly quiet. And I'm sure there's going to be a comment in the comment section about how I'm wrong, but that's okay.
Someone's just sat and jumped up, ready to fucking pounce on you. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful pass. I love to see that. And then, good cross from Calabria, who I thought was actually having a good game as well. God, there was one moment, and I think it was in the second half, where I don't know, he's playing out of his mind, just like beating defenders with his dribbling. Never see that from him. But yeah, Loftus-Cheek scored, and 1-1 back in it going into halftime. It was the mood was good, felt positive. Obviously he got a yellow card right after. Did he take his shirt off or?
No, I don't think so. I can't remember what he did.
Yeah, I don't know either. It says
he didn't take his
45
shirt
plus
off.
2 got a yellow. I didn't think he did, but
I remember. I always think, because obviously now he's scored 4 in his last 4 games, and he's up to 5 for the season. I think it is. I always think that his celebrations are quite subdued. Loftus-Cheek. He's a very, very. I mean, I remember we did an interview with the Athletics Chelsea writer, Simon Johnson, and he was saying that he's never met a more laid back footballer. And I do quite like those guys who just go out there and it's like, fucking job. I've just done my job. I've scored a goal, but it's my job kind of thing.
yeah.
But then the second goal, which we'll come on to, he showed a lot more emotion, as if he knew the magnitude of what that goal could be, and unfortunately wasn't. Second half, they had a bit of a they had a decent chance early on when Xerxes brought down a cross really, really well to get away from Kier, and then he took a touch to get away from Gabia as well, and then he just laced the shot over the bar. He should have done a lot better with that. Two teams kind of traded half chances. Pioli made some changes. He made 3 changes on the hour, with Florenzi, Musa, and Jovic coming on. And we got another penalty then in the 75th minute. Leao run about 60 meters, I would say, and it was one of them, like where you think, oh, you're not stopping this guy. Off he went on one of those lung-busting runs, weaving in and out of defenders. Then he gets to the final place, and De Silvestri, of all players, an experienced fullback, decides just to clothesline him inside the box. It was a weird one because you don't see that very much. It's normally a trip, or it might be a hip-to-hip thing and the player goes over. But a straight-up stiff arm in the face is a new one for us this season in terms of winning a penalty, but no arguments about it.
Yeah, it was clear-cut penalty, and it was all Leao, the run, obviously, the entire pitch, and it was a beautiful run. It was one of those runs where you see it from him and you think, all right, we're about to score here. He's doing his damn thing, and then he got taken out, clothesline, and it's a penalty, and you're thinking, cool, now we get to right the wrong from the first penalty that we missed, because no one misses 2 penalties in one game. That'd be crazy. We missed a penalty again. So,
we did. And this one was a proper miss as well, not a save. Fuck me. You've already not converted 1 penalty. I would say probably make sure you hit the target. Wow, a lot of people, it surprised me that a lot of people didn't know the rule about how a penalty taker. Yeah, I've seen that happen before. Usually it's off the crossbar, because that's when it bounces more straight back to a player to then take a touch. But Teo genuinely didn't know. It surprises me that a professional footballer wasn't aware that the penalty taker can't touch the ball a second time before another player. But it's also quite hard to word in that way, because you think, well, he can't be offside because he's hit it against the post and it's come back to himself, But yeah, that's just one of those rules in football. What I will say though is, based on the replays that we then saw afterwards, if he didn't do that, Bologna were going to clear it anyway. It's not like he took it off Leao's boot as he was about to put in the rebound or anything. It wasn't. It didn't really matter. But yeah, to miss a penalty and actually miss a second penalty was not good. Now is probably the time to mention what happened after the game with Leao and Pioli. I just want to get the exact quotes up. But I mean, a lot of people were saying Giroud was off the field, so there wasn't much of a decision to make there. It was obviously going to be Teo who took the second penalty. Pioli said after the game that Leao told him when he brought him off that he will take the next penalty. He doesn't score many in training, but perhaps in a match it will be different. Will he take the next one? I don't know now. Very strange stuff, that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him say it. So, was it in a jokey way? Did he say it with... He shouldn't do, but if he said it with a smirk on his face, that's a totally different thing to being like, well, he didn't score many in training, but in a game, who knows, kind of thing. Or was he deadly serious, like, I don't know who will take the next penalty?
I have no idea. I didn't see it either. I don't speak Italian, so I don't stick around to watch the post-game interviews. Real quick, looking at Teo's penalty since I went over Giroud. Teo scored 4 for us, and he's missed 2 for us. Obviously this one, and then one against Spezia when Ivan Provedel was in goal. And
he rolled it wide. I remember that. He rolled it like 3 yards wide. So it's every time he goes for that bottom right corner, obviously with his left foot, left footers tend to pull the penalty. I don't know why, but Giroud does it a lot. He always goes right side of the goal.
Skrupski did guess the right way too. So if it was on target, it was getting saved regardless. It was this was never going in. Unfortunate because there's a lot of goal that you can aim for that it would have went in, but it's not how it works. I don't know about the Leao comments. Look, I said it when we were in the bar, and I was like, you know what, let Leao take it. Like, he needs a goal here, get his confidence back up. I don't know if he would have scored it. I have no idea if he would have scored. I've never seen him take a penalty in my life, so I don't know if that's a good idea or not. But I know Pulisic takes penalties for the U.S. He does a good job. He doesn't miss too often.
I was going to say Pulisic should probably.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Jovic, he's one of the best finishers on the team. He was on the pitch at that point. Let him take it, I don't know. It's hard to break up your order, especially when, like, they've both been fairly reliable for you. Theo at this point had missed 1 of 5 penalties for us in his career, or in his entire career, actually. All his penalties have come on our team. So, it's really hard to say, like, nah, don't give it to Theo. It's just, but today was, or I guess Sunday was Saturday, Jesus. Saturday was just the day where we weren't going to score one.
No.
And it is what it is, that we thought we were getting that rebound. I really thought it was in. I celebrated. I was the only one celebrating. Apparently, I was the only person who didn't know that rule. So, Professor Torgard, as my buddy's going to say in the comments. But
yeah,
it was a shitty moment.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I suppose another thing as well is that, like, every player has their own style of taking penalties. I think it is pointless in many ways over analysing penalties, because it's more a battle of mind than anything else, and a bit of luck involved. If you're the goalkeeper, you've got to guess the right way, whatever. But we get a second penalty of the game, and Teo has just seen Giroud not convert a penalty by rolling one along the floor to the right side of the goal. And when he steps up, and he's normally a very, very clean striker of a penalty, you think, okay, thank God, he's just going to put his foot through it. And even if keeper guesses the right way, he's going to beat him for power. I felt so much more confident about that second penalty, perhaps law of averages thing as well. And yet he decided to step up and do the same thing, roll it and not even get it on target. So I think some practice might be needed on that front. Again, I really don't think you can overanalyze penalties too much. They either go in or they don't. There's not too much to it other than a bit of luck and guesswork and a battle of minds. But yeah, missing 2 in a game is not good. But we still should have won. Final 10 minutes. Ruben Loftus-Cheek again coming up with the goods. A lovely cross from Florenzi, to be fair, down the right-hand side. picked him up with a stand-up cross. It wasn't one of those that had a lot of pace on it, so all he had to do was glance it. It was a floating ball in where he needed to rise, and he jumps like 1.5, maybe a meter off the ground to meet that one. Powerful header. It was at Skorupski, and he maybe would have liked that back, in terms of keeping it out. But he headed it with such power that it just went off him and sort of into the top corner. And yeah, that was when the big outpouring celebration came from Loftus-Cheek.
Yeah.
I think he thought, as we all did, that he bailed us out of a difficult situation there with a lovely goal.
Yeah, it was almost a carbon copy of the first goal of the game from him. It was Leao, beautiful, beautiful pass to Calabria. Or I'm sorry, not Calabria, Florenzi on the byline. And then I think the first goal, Calabria grounded it to Loftus-Cheek, and this one was, lobbed, and then obviously the header, and damn near exact same goal. You can't complain against that one. It was fantastic. Like you said, we all thought that was it. We all thought we won. There was 5-7 minutes left in the game, something like that, and all you got to do is, hold on to the ball at that point, right? Don't let them score. Don't tug
Hold
someone's
the
shirt in the
ball,
penalty
not your
box.
man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we didn't. And then Pioli made some really, in my opinion, bad subs, taking off Pulisic and Leao. He put on Okafor, which is fine. That's I get that, winger for winger. And then Terracciano, which again, look, I wasn't familiar with this game when we signed him, so I wasn't like excited. I wasn't disappointed. I was just like, okay, whatever, this guy's here. But I wouldn't have brought him in. I thought that was a strange move. Yeah, I get defend the lead. You got 5 minutes left, so bring on a defender. Sure, I get that, but at the same time, every time we've done that, I think back to Roma last season where we had a 2-0 lead in this exact minute, the 83rd, and we decided to pull forward and put on, I think it was Gabia actually, ironically, an extra defender, and then we conceded 2 goals. When we change that defensive formation to a 5-man back line, something that we don't ever use, it has backfired every single time. So I wouldn't do that anymore if I was him. But it wasn't even just a defensive mistake. It was a penalty. Ironically, the third penalty of the game, and of course, the first for Bologna, and they score it because that's what you should do with the penalty. But
yeah, I mean, so it's slack marking that all this comes from. Unfortunately, Terracciano, I'm going to give him a little bit of respite because, as you say, I think bringing him on was a bad idea. You shouldn't change defensive shape and sort of unsettle the defense when they'd largely done okay, or at least you back them to see out the remaining portion of the game. But he's brought on. He's obviously given a marking assignment, which was Christensen. A ball gets fizzed across goal. It should have probably been dealt with before then, to be honest, as well. Let's be honest. It should never get there. Christensen's waiting at the back post. He doesn't quite get a foot to it. Then the replay shows that Terracciano had lost him, and he pulls his shirt back. If he doesn't, but it's one of those where, unfortunately, sometimes shirt pulls can be quite subjective. Is there enough contact to bring somebody down? Was he going to get to the ball anyway? But that one was clear cut in the sense that if he doesn't pull him back, he gets there and puts it in anyway to make it 2-2. So Terracciano would probably look at it and say, I just did what I had to do. It was a last ditch thing. But it was poor. It was not good. You cannot switch off in added time. And you just knew that they were going to score the penalty then, as they did. And Maignan, it sort of went through him. But, I'm not going to penalty in it. So.
Look, you could argue it was actually the right decision from Terracciano. As you said, he was going to score that. It was going in. It was right as his foot. He was beat. So, I'm not giving him any leeway here because it was still his man that beat him. But when it's, I guess, stoppage time, it's a surefire goal. You got beat. What are your options? Risk the penalty and hope Mike saves it, I guess. It's either that or just let it go in, and then it's in regardless. So at least the penalty flashbacks to World Cup 2014 with the Suarez handball, and then Uruguay saved the penalties. Yeah. So I mean, sometimes the penalty is the right call. Unfortunately, it wasn't this time. Yeah, it was just a shitty moment, and Mike hasn't saved a penalty for us in a while either. I don't know when the last one was. I think the Scudetto season was the last time he saved a penalty. Certainly hasn't done it this year. And that's rough. But like you said, we'll have averages. You save a bunch, and then all of a sudden you let in a few, or vice versa. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's
You
just
can't
it's rough.
put it on him either. Unfortunately, that when you really really need a big save from a penalty, it would have been an incredible moment if he'd done it. Especially with everything that's happened in the last 8 days, whatever, regarding him. But I just knew it. I felt it in my loins that Orsolini was going to step up and show us what to do. In the sense that, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't matter if you pick a corner, whatever, and the keeper guesses the same way. If you put enough power on it, it's probably going in. And that's why I maintain my hardline stance of you should always put power behind your penalty rather than going so specifically for placement. I know it's benefit of hindsight, but I just feel that way. And that's why I think sometimes defenders take the best penalties, to be honest. They don't fuck about. Yeah, it was unfortunate. And that was it. Game finished 2-2. Funny, you mentioned that Roma game, and I was just thinking he brought Vronks off the bench for that game, and he gave away that foul
That's
that
who it
led
was.
to, and it's like, for all the people who say, why doesn't he trust these players? I remember Adley came off the bench earlier in the season and gave away a penalty as well. Like
So did
maybe,
Musa.
yeah, maybe that's it. He has his guys, and it is also tough to make changes inside the last 10 minutes when you've got a lead, because you risk upsetting the apple cart a little bit when you've got a formula out there that's working. But yeah, I don't know. Not good. Drop points. Failed to take advantage of Juve dropping points at home. Inter would then win against Fiorentina, so they move a bit further away. I have to be honest, as negative as this is, I don't really care about the league anymore. Like, I'm very unenthusiastic about the remainder of the season in Serie A, because and obviously you'd rather be comfortably in third than fighting for top four, but we're just stranded on this third place island. We had a chance to close to Juve and at least sort of become the main challenger, but we fucked it. And yet we're, even with the games in hand for teams that are chasing for that fourth spot, we're still going to be 9 points above that as well. And I don't mean it in an arrogant way, like, well, we've already got top four locked up, because if we go into another crisis, we could pay the price for it. But we've seen it. It's been a cycle all season. We build enough momentum to solidify that spot, then we drop key points to mean that that's all we do. And I think third was where we're absolutely nailed on to finish.
And I think we probably are the third best team in the league.
I think so too.
I don't think it's any crazy result for us. I wish it was better. Like you said, we could have taken advantage of that. Obviously, Napoli's nowhere near us. Same with Lazio, but they also dropped points as well. They had a 0-0 draw. There was a lot of opportunity for us to not make a statement, I guess, but to just gain some ground in this championship. That, look, we're not doing anything. Inter and Juve have lost one game this season, and we've lost 4. Like, to both the teams above us, the team immediately below us as well, and Atalanta. Like, those are 3 of our losses, and then Udinese, because we can't beat struggling low table sides. But I mean, that's really the difference. That's really the difference. Yeah, there's a couple. I guess if you take, we probably should have won this Bologna game. You take that. You take the 2-0 lead against Napoli that we blew. You take the 2-0 lead against Lecce we blew. You take the lead against Salernitana that we blew. I mean, that if everything goes right, it's a different story. We're top of the league, but that's not the case, and I think we're right where we deserve to be. So I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, agreed. The table doesn't lie, especially when you've got this many games on the board. And I think if you wanted perhaps the most concrete bit of evidence to point towards the fact that injuries have derailed our season, you look at the fact that our top 3 centre-backs at the moment are out. Obviously, Tomori, Kalulu and Chow we haven't had for a while and won't have for a while yet. Our defensive record has really suffered. We've conceded 25 goals in 22 games. A team that's serious about challenging for the title should never concede more than a goal per game. In fact, only Roma in the top 8 have conceded more goals than us, and we put 3 past them. And Inter have conceded 10 in 21 games, and they've scored 50. They've got a goal difference of plus 40. Juve have conceded 13 in 22. So these are teams that are averaging somewhere around about a half goal conceded per game. And I know I've moaned before about our second half record 17 of those 25 goals we've conceded in the second half, only 8 in the first half. That's remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that we're bringing these numbers up, because if you look at it, we are, I guess, Roma technically, but we're the worst defense in the top half of the table, right? Roma's the only one with one more goal conceded than us, and that came yesterday. Yesterday we were tied for worst. So at the time of recording, we're second, but time of when we should have recorded, we would have been worse. So I'm sticking with it.
Yeah.
But we had the second best attack by far. It's not even close. I think third is Atalanta, and we have 6 more goals scored than them. Like it's a big gap, and we're only 7 goals off of Inter for most attacks. So for all of our woes, the fact that we keep dropping points, you would think, okay, we need to score more, but we score a damn lot.
Yeah, we
It's
do.
literally just our defense, and it comes down to that injury crisis because, like you said, our top 3 starting center backs are out and have been for a while, and that's really been the story of the whole season. But yeah, it's just as Kier said years ago, we keep conceding shitty goals. A good offense will win you games, but a great defense will win you championships, as the old adage goes. And Inter are doing
100%.
both of those things, and we're doing one of them. So that's the difference.
Yeah, 100%. And look, you think about games like this, and you think about the Atalanta game that sort of bookends our winning run in the league. If you have to score 4 goals to win a game, or in the case of the Bologna game, you have to score 3 goals to win a game, it's a tough order. It's a tough ask. You've got to give yourself a better chance than that. And yeah, we've been good at scoring goals. We scored 3 in each of our last 3 league games, and then 2 in this one. That should be enough for 12 points, man. And it wasn't. Tops and flops, shall we?
Yeah, real quick before we do that, I just want to look at our league form. We mentioned going into this game as an opportunity to win 5 consecutive games for the first time since the Scudetto season.
Mm-hmm.
Any other person on earth would see that and go, "Oh, they're high flying, they're in great form." But it never felt like that, right?
No,
Because
it didn't.
this was such a scrappy 2-2 draw. Before that, it was a come from behind 3-2 victory. There was a comfortable 3-1 against Roma that at one point did feel shitty because it was 2-1. There was a 3-0 thrashing of Empoli, so that was comfortable.
Dog
And
shit.
then before that, it was a 1-0 victory over Sassuolo with the second half goal. It never really felt that great. There was the Empoli game was the only one where like, all right, cool. We did it. We're good. But everything else we just kind of pulled it off by the skin of our neck. So even in good form, it's not great. But tops and flops, or which one are we doing first? Tops, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Leao. He won the penalty. He created the second goal. Another day we're talking about that, winning it for us. So everything he did was right, outside of scoring himself. But I'm going Leao.
Yeah, I'm going
Oh,
Loftus-Cheek.
no, I'm not. Yeah, Loftus-Cheek had 2 fucking goals. What am I thinking?
Yeah, well, Leao deserves a shout though, so I'm glad you said that. But Loftus-Cheek, he didn't do an absolute. He had another really, really solid run early on in the game where he took it about 80 meters, but he didn't have a generational performance per se. But when you on the end of 2 good chances and you put both of them in, and you should be the match winner. I think he deserves it for me, and I'm gutted that he wasn't the hero. Of course, it doesn't take away from what he did. The fact that he scored and he's now got 4 in his last 4 games and stuff. He's turning into a real an attacking midfielder who contributes in terms of stats. But yeah, just a little bit of a bitter aftertaste, isn't there? After we didn't manage to get all 3 points. Flop.
This might be harsh. I'm gonna go Terracciano. He was only on the pitch
He cost
for 10
the
minutes.
game.
He did.
Yeah.
How do you, it's hard not to pick him. I know there were people who were consistently bad throughout the whole game, but they didn't lose it for us. They didn't give away a stoppage time penalty. Terracciano did, so I'm gonna pick him.
Yeah, I'm going Teo, and I feel very, very strongly about this. It was a shambles, really, to be honest. The first goal, he's he's not even in the picture at first, and that's probably where he should be defending, given that it was a ball over towards the right-hand side. And then he just sort of jogs back in towards the fray rather than, getting in amongst it. So a failure to track back for the first goal. Then, of course, he missed the penalty. But just in general, he wasn't at the races. And I think, dare I say it, we've just come to expect that that's what Teo is. He can't be the difference maker every single week. But the problem is that he's so prone to these lapses that it can be very costly. I'm not saying that he cost us the game in this sense, because I think, yeah, you're right, Terracciano did directly cost us the result. But you expect better. And I thought Calabria on the other flank totally outshined him at both ends, to be totally honest. So yeah, I'll go Teo needs to book his shit up. But there was a total lack of organisation. We always look in difficulty with this makeshift back four against teams that have a bit of something going forward. It's happened twice against Atalanta now. We've played mid teams in between, and now Bologna have come with quite a talented team, and they play the right way. We should probably mention actually, like, thoughts on this Motta Bologna, given that it could be Motta's Milan.
Don't like that. I think we were already chanting some bullshit towards him when he got sent off. Like, he's an Inter guy. Yeah, he's friends with Zlatan, and that might probably be our next coach. But if this was his interview, it certainly didn't go well.
Oh, because of the red card, I suppose. Yeah. He was going apeshit as well when they got that equaliser, which is fair enough. He's going to be passionate about the team that he's currently coaching.
Yeah.
I was impressed with the way that Bologna played, though. To be honest, I feel like we probably deserve to edge the game, but I just like it when teams come. They're well below us in the table in terms of points, but they came and had a go. And I always respect that, rather than a team coming and shutting up shop and hoping for a point, as we've come to expect with sort of Roma and even Lazio now. They came and had a go, and they've got some very talented players, ones that I wouldn't mind us taking a look at, even besides the obvious Xerxes. Yeah, we'll see, won't we? Let's move on. We have a game to preview. Frosinone, Saturday evening. Where are Frosinone in the table? They're doing all right. They're 13th. They've won 6 of 22 games, which is not too bad. Negative 12 goal difference. They are currently 5 points above the bottom three, so it's not yet safety guaranteed or anything like that. But that's pretty good for them to be doing so well. Yeah, we beat them earlier in the season, 3-1, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on what kind of a season Frosinone have had here. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. So, yeah, they've struggled recently from round 14 onwards. So that's the last 9 games. They've only won 1 of them. And that was a 3-1 home win against Cagliari, who are obviously struggling massively this season. Since they lost 3-1 to us at San Siro, they then drew 0-0 with Torino, but lost to Lecce, Juventus, Lazio, Monza, and Atalanta. The Atalanta was a 5-0. I remember that being the early kickoff. No, it wasn't. It was late on a Saturday or something. And yeah, Atalanta absolutely battered them. They drew their last game 1-1 against Hellas Verona, who were also struggling. They've got a pretty tough run of games after this, actually. They've got us, Fiorentina away, Roma at home, who seem to be a bit better under De Rossi, and then Juventus away. So, look, we're not going to make it easy, I don't think. Just because we don't tend to.
I think we might be. I mean, we beat them 3-1, as you said, and it was a stoppage time goal from Brescianini to get their 1 goal.
Yeah,
so we were 3-0 up and turned off at that point, which I hate that we do that. But also, if you're 3-0 up against arguably a relegation side, it's like, okay, you could rest for the last 5 minutes, I suppose, but don't give that shit away. Tomori scored a goal in that game. He's obviously not going to be playing, but he should be coming back soon, right?
He's going to be the middle one back. So we're looking at having Chow back in a couple of weeks, but obviously he'll need a bit of time to train with the team and get his match fitness back. And then it's going to be Tomori in mid-March, and then I think Kalulu a couple of weeks after that. So it's still a while yet, but having Chow back will be massive because, he was starting before his injury.
Right. Chow Gabi would be much better than here.
Yeah.
But anyways, I mean, Pulisic and Jovic also scored in that game. It was part of that December run where the two of them were just on fire. Jovic won the team player of the month, and Pulisic won the Serie A player of the month. So make of that what you will. But I mean, they obviously were the two best players of December, and that was a part of that. So look at they can continue that this game. I know. I mean, it's only a month later, right? Or I guess a little over that, more like 2 months. But yeah,
kind of strange that, because we're so used to the schedule not mirroring. What do I mean? Like replicating for the second half. So if you play Frosinone late in the first half of the season, you're going to play them towards the back end. And yet, as you say, we only played them last month.
yeah.
I suppose it will be February when the game comes around. But yeah, look, there's one man to stop for them. And he's on loan from Juventus. Matthias Sula, 20-year-old. He's having a fantastic season. He's got 9 goals for them. And 1 assist, so 10 goal contributions. Just to put that in perspective, next on the list is 2 defenders, who have 4 goal contributions.
Oh.
Brescianini, as you mentioned, he's there. He's gone on a permanent there. Reina is there, who's on loan from Real Madrid, I think. Caio Jorge, who was at Juventus, and we were linked with signing, but he went there. He's got 3 goals, so not doing too badly. They've got Arjan Ibrahimovic on loan from Bayern Munich as well. I think they have an option to buy on him, but I could be wrong. Obviously, familiar surname, and Sky Germany said we're one of the teams that are interested in signing him potentially ahead of the summer because he's doing quite well as a winger for them. Should still be a W, though. So I'm going to say we do it again, 3-1.
Yeah, honestly, I'm going to mirror that. I don't think they're good enough. We should put them past them because one thing's for sure, we haven't stopped. Well, I don't want to say we haven't stopped scoring, but open play, we're scoring just fine. So, yeah, I think we'll at least get 2 again here.
Controversial. Give me a 1-0 over a 3-1 because I want us to keep a clean sheet. Sick to death of conceding bastard goals. And look, I know it's only Frosinone, but this has to be a game where you keep a clean sheet. Like, if you cannot keep out teams in the bottom half, then don't even bother. I can see us going behind in this, to be honest, and having to roar back or something. But yeah, I don't know. We shall move on and do some questions. Got 9 replies, I see. Kieran James, a fellow English Milanista, him, actually, and a Plymouth fan. You're a big Plymouth guy, I believe, Plymouth Argyle.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Didn't you play as him on FIFA once or something?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I've done a lot of those small teams. I like to bring them up to the top, but
yeah,
and then never touch the save file.
Yeah, Kieran asks, any thoughts on the Leao to PSG link? Would you cash in? And if so, what's the fair price?
I'd like to recuse myself from this one.
Yeah.
I'm
might
happen. I think it'd be the release clause if it happens.
That's 175 mil for those who do not know. That's that would make him the second most expensive player ever. And
I feel like PSG wouldn't bat an eye at that. I mean, they didn't bat an eye at making Neymar the most expensive and then getting Mbappe a week later. They could do it. I wouldn't be surprised, especially if these Conte rumors are true. Don't trust Monblano, just saying. I'll leave it there. But, if it happens, if Conte comes in, he doesn't play with wingers. Leao's not going to be switched to a wing back. We know that,
That would be funny.
There's a much better chance of Teo becoming our left wing back over him. And so it would be Leao gone at that point. And, maybe it's just a little swap, maybe with that 175 mil, we grab the free agent Mbappe there,
Yeah, and the 175 mil salary that comes with it as well. Yeah. I used to think, and I still do think a bit, but this amount is decreasing. I used to think Leao was irreplaceable for us. We will never get a player of his talent and his potential for the price that we got him for. We're not a club that's going to go out and spend 70 mil, but in terms of finding a gem like we did for, what was it, 30 mil plus Thiago Giallo, I didn't think that we could easily replicate that at all. And I thought that a player of his importance would be very, very difficult to replace. I just think that this season, he hasn't really kicked on. He's stuck on 3 goals in the league. He's still had very important performances. He should have He should have had a decisive hand in the Bologna game that we just talked about by winning that penalty that was spurned. He still creates plenty. He is still our main attacking threat from open play. I will say that much. However, he makes 7 million net a year, including bonuses. You know, he makes big star money, and he's not the star often enough anymore. To not score a goal in the league for 4 months, it shouldn't happen like that. That is a long drought. And people say, yeah, he's double and triple teamed. We've now got a more spread attacking threat, so he doesn't need to score. Blah, blah. I don't really care. Just you've got to find a way. You've got to find a way. Which leads me on to saying that I think if an offer of 100 million plus comes in, I think we sit down and talk about it. And I'm going that because, look, I know that transfer fees are inflated in football at the moment, but I don't know how we point to his 175 million clause after a season where he's got 3 goals in the league. Okay, he might end up on 5. We hope he ends up on 10, 15 and goes on an absolute tear. That'll boost his value. But just looking at what we see right now, I don't think he's taken that big leap that we all hoped for. And now he's 25. So we're starting to look at what is more and more of the finished product with him. Of course, he can get better by the time he's 27, 28. But his game is built so much around that explosiveness in terms of his athleticism, his pace, his dribbling, his trickery, that you only really have in your mid to late 20s. You know, he's going to have a narrower prime than most, I think, because of that. And also, you know, Leao has always been very, very, I think, straight down the middle in his interviews. And he's always said that he loves being at Milan. He was happy to sign his extension. It's the best place for him. He never thought about leaving, is what he said in his most recent one. And honestly, all of that is commendable because a player of his talent, attracting interest from the top teams around Europe, could say, oh, it's flattering and, you know, I'll see what the future holds, blah, blah, blah. But I also think, you know, we signed that renewal for leverage. I honestly think we signed it for leverage when teams come in to negotiate. Is this me saying I want Leao gone? No. I want him to stay. I want him to get better. I want him to realise all of his potential. However, as you kind of mentioned with the unknown factor of who will be our next head coach and that kind of thing, I think if PSG need to go out and spend big on a replacement for Mbappe and they come with serious cash, 110, 120 million, we know how this club operates now. You know, there was no sentimentality towards Tonali when he is the embodiment of being a Milan fan playing for us. There ain't going to be any for Leao. And I do increasingly think that a big player leaves this summer, perhaps because they're unsettled or perhaps because we push them out the door a little bit as we did with Tonali. And if it's Leao, then so be it, because 120 mil is, again, money that you can completely reinvent the squad with, to be honest. I just hope it's not a sad ending like that, really. But yeah. Abhijit Mohan asks, imagine you guys were tasked with making Serie A a successful and profitable league again. How would you do so? Be realistic. You can't start with selling TV rights for 2 billion.
Oh, well, I wasn't going to. I think the first one is make the production worth buying, you know? Like, bring in 4K. Go watch an MLS game and you'll be shocked how high quality the production is. The quality of football, dog shit. But the production, I feel like I'm watching a big event every time I turn on MLS game because it's top quality picture, you know, 4K. The angles are so much better. They do like almost this drone camera that follows them along. It looks so nice. It's like you're in the stadium every time. The announcers, and no disrespect to guys like Matteo Bonetti, Andres Cordero, those guys, they're fine. But every now and then you get the world feed, and the world feed will be one commentator. That's not enough. You need a color, you need a play-by-play. You know, that's just how commentary works in all sports always. And then you have this one guy, Massimo, and again, there's nothing wrong with not having English as your first language, but if your job is to be the English color commentator, you need to know how to speak it. You can't have this guy going mumbling the whole time because it's his second language. And at that point, like whatever his first language is, I believe it's Italian, have him commentate for the Italian crew, you know? And I'm sure he'd be fantastic. He'd be great because you hear what he tries to say, and it does make sense a lot of times. It's good, but he can't deliver it because it's not his native language and he's not very good at it. So get someone who can up the video quality. and then try to find a way to improve the infrastructure. There's so much bureaucracy in politics and Italian football and just how the clubs operate that they're holding themselves back. If like we're trying to build a new stadium and we have been for honestly a decade now, as far back as I remember. I think 2015 Berlusconi was talking about it. Barbara Berlusconi, when she was here, was talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been forever, and we haven't even broken ground. We haven't even decided on a site yet. Like it changes all the time. So we need to move into the 21st century, make it appealing. Inject some money into the league. Like you say don't sell the TV rights for $2 billion, and I agree. It's not as simple as that. No one's going to pay that, but certainly do more. We've seen that they accepted the third best offer or third highest paying offer for TV rights this most recent turn, and you think, why? Why would you not take the one with the most money? And I'm assuming it had something to do with production value, but it
Control, yeah.
hasn't changed at all. And a lot of it is that Serie A wants to control most of the product, as you just said, and they're not doing a good job. They don't know how to do it. They need to look towards the American model. The American model for sports generates billions after billions after billions, and every single game of any American sport is an event because of the quality of the production. You see it with the Premier League. That's why it's so exciting and people think it's the best league in the world. I don't think the quality is there. It's definitely near the top. It's one or two. But the production, I mean, when was the last time we had a moment like the Aguero, like one of those? That every person who watches this sport over the last 15 years knows that moment as like a highlight. Like that's a core memory for every fan, whether you watch the Premier League or not. I don't support any Premier League club, and that's still that moment gives me chills every time. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have anything like that in Serie A, and a lot of it comes to the production.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with everything you say. Like, there are various levels involved in this, and they can all do something more. I think sort of the administrators in charge of Lega Serie, they need to diversify. They need to get people on board, either as advisors, board members, whatever, who have a better understanding of how to build sort of a revenue driven product. I remember Cardinale saying in an interview that he offered his help to the league and they said no, and he was surprised by it. But that's the kind of help they should be taking. We're not talking about like totally selling out and turning it into some capitalist thing. Like, for example, they've outsourced the Super Coppa to Saudi Arabia to make more money because they offered a lot of money to host it. And we're all joking about it, saying it's a disgrace, it shouldn't be out there. It's a balancing act. You can't completely sell out. But at the same time, you need to have people who understand how to sell a TV rights package, and it doesn't have to be what the product is now because you're selling these as multi-year deals, and you can sell the promise of the future and be like, right, you give us this now, the league's going to become better, and then government level comes into it because they should be able to put something in place where it's easier for teams to build new stadiums. They should be able to overrule local councils and all the bureaucracy that comes along with that to remove some of those obstacles and the red tape that has halted a lot of the big clubs in Italy from building their own stadiums, and even perhaps some financing solution as well, because it is a bit much to ask teams that often make huge losses to pump $1 billion in for building a new stadium. And also the growth decree is something that they need to bring back in because it doesn't make it's a contractionary policy. Is that all of a sudden it becomes a lot harder for teams to recruit players from abroad who would probably grow the profile of the league. You look at us, RLC, 4 goals in his last 4 games. Pulisic, the best signing that we made in the summer. We might not have brought both of them in had the situation been as it's going to be. So need to do that, but then also combine it with a stimulus package that sort of helps the development of Italian academies and that kind of thing to offset it, because it seems most of the concerns are what happens to Italian academies as a result of the growth decree. And then clubs as well. Clubs need to do more. I think the top clubs are trying. The American ownerships that we have, as well as Roma, Juventus, for as annoying as they are, have always kind of been at the forefront of trying to push the product of the league. I just worry about some of the more unambitious owners who are stuck in their ways. Cairo, De Laurentiis, they seem to revel in the circus more than actually being progressive. I think attitudes need to change in that sense as well. perhaps a bit more foreign ownership. But that is an interesting talking point. It's something that probably deserves its own podcast, really. But the league does feel like it's been losing ground on those top 2 or 3 for some time now. And also in that coefficient thing, the Serie A's are now above the Premier League in terms of whatever the coefficient ranking was, it IFHS or something like that, which means that as things stand, Serie A will get a 5th Champions League place for the upcoming season. That's another thing about the boring nature of this season, is that we don't even have to finish fucking 4th. We can finish 5th and still get it.
Yeah, I forgot about that, to be honest. Who's in 5th right now? Is it
Fiorentina,
Roma?
I think.
It's Roma.
Oh, Roma.
But Fiorentina have a game in hand. I guess actually everyone does.
Yeah.
Why have us, Juve and Roma, played more games than everyone else? I don't.
Supercoppa.
Yeah, but half the league hasn't played. That's weird. I don't fucking know.
Well, Inter and Atalanta was postponed because of the Supercoppa. So, like, that's their makeup game is, I think, next month. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense because 4 teams and 2 of them played 2 games. So I guess that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Michael Gambino, after Saturday's match, are you convinced of Xerxes, or are other options better?
I'm not convinced by him. Not at 40 mil, to be honest. I mean, look, he came from Bayern. He was decent at Bayern, but he's only really had this season as a good one. I'm just trying to pull up numbers here. I guess he did well at Anderlecht, but that doesn't mean anything.
22, 22, and he's not showing himself yet to be a 20-plus goal scorer.
Right.
But
in fact, this year he's only got 8 goals in Serie A, and how many of those were penalties? Only 1. Okay, that's not
but
bad.
how many would be for December?
Probably most, because it's only January. So
yeah, no, I think he's on that broke a drought, didn't it? The goal that he scored on Saturday, he'd gone a few without one.
Yeah, he had 2 against Salernitana in December 10.
Right.
But then it was us, Salernitana, Torino, Fiorentina, Sassuolo, Inter, and Cagliari. So, I mean, really, us and Inter are the only big teams he scored against. The rest have been pretty small teams, and there's been a couple droughts in there as well. So, I don't know. Look, he's young, as you said. He's young. You could see the talents there, but I don't know if he's the finished product yet. I don't know. He isn't the finished product. We know that. But is that what we want to bring in as another? Like, look, we either get someone who's past their prime or well before it. We never just get a guy who's ready-made like Marcus Thuram. That would have been a great move, but we didn't do that. I guess Jovic is a finished product for himself, but I don't know if that's like anything to write home about. I think he's done a decent job, but yeah. And under Conte, we're going to have 2-striker formation if he comes in. Let's be real. So does that mean it's Okafor and Jovic up top? Because they actually would work well together, I think, in a 2-striker formation. But I don't know. I don't know if we'd even go for a new striker. There's a lot to be said there, I guess.
Yeah, out of all the links, I think Xerxes is one of the biggest gambles for all the reasons you just said. Like, he's going to have a huge price tag because of the hype behind him. There's the complication of Bayern Munich having a buyback, and if not, then they have a big percentage of the resale. I think that there's a lot to overcome there that Premier League teams would find easier with the money they have. The other names that have sort of been linked, like Benjamin Sesko at Leipzig, he's realistic because, again, though, you're coming onto the thing of like he's before his prime, but he's realistic because he's not playing much there because Leipzig have so many attacking options, one of which is Openda, who we linked with and didn't sign, and he's smashing it there, of course. But he ticks a lot of boxes as well. I think he wouldn't come cheap either, though I think he has a release clause. Then there's like Jimenez at Feyenoord. Again, there's doubts about what does it really mean to score 19 in 19 in the Eredivisie. It proves that he's a good goal scorer, and I have seen him. He's a good finisher. He scored twice against Lazio in Europe this season. I like him. I think he could be like our Lautaro. He's a little battling fucker, but there is always an element of risk when you sign in a big player from Eredivisie. We've seen with Reinders that it's hard to replicate those same numbers by moving to a better league. I like Gyökeres, who people will be like, who? But he was far, far too good for the Championship. With Coventry, who got slandered earlier in this episode, and then he's moved to Sporting, and he's absolutely flying. He's 25 years old. He's a Sweden international, so maybe there's a bit of a Zlatan thing there. I don't know, but as a mould of centre forward, he is very, very good. But I think he would have a huge asking price as well. Pavlidis is banging him in for AZ Alkmaar, but having watched videos of him, I'm not convinced he's actually a good footballer at all. It's just like all these names are like, yeah, better than what we've got, but is this the guy? You know what I mean? Like every name that we're linked with is that. But we don't have the money to go out and spend 80 mil on a ready-made product. So that there does have to be a bit of gamble to it. Jonathan David's another one. Like we were all mad hyped. Well, most of us were hyped for that based on the season he had last season. And then this season comes around and we're like, it's an opportunity to get him for a cut price. Yeah, because he's shite now. Like that, you know, it's tough. It's tough, and we've got to get it right. We can't waste the money. That's the thing. So I'm kind of glad that we've got a few more months at it rather than rushing into something like Guirassy in January. Right, we'll wrap it up there. I looked at the time. I know Jack Haddon has sent in 3 or 4 questions, so I might take one of them for the bonus episode this week. And apologies for not answering the other ones. But yeah, I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
See you guys next week.
Yep, back in a week's time.
Gol! Ancora Teo! È una meraviglia! Il gol di Teo Hernandez da un'area all'altra! È una meraviglia! Senti il mio cuore!